Hello all, welcome to the Knife Edge UK YouTube channel. You can click on the link in the description to go over to whatever the hell I've listed down there. I'm not even sure as I record this, which is very professional of me. So what are we looking at today? Well, this is the Lionsteel CK01 Roundhead. This was a collaboration between Lionsteel and Collector Knives, Mike Latham's company in the US. It's really nice. It's effectively like a Lionsteel sprint run, if you like. Excuse me. And there are going to be more on their way very shortly. So from that point of view, I thought I might as well do a nice quick review of this one. Before we get properly into it, let's just stick a few next to this and give you some size comparisons. So here it is next to a Lincoln Jack. That's on the GEC number 15 frame. We'll put it next to a... What should we use? We'll use a UK PK there. As you can see, the blade lengths are very, very close. This is a, technically UK legal spec. It's under 3 inches of blade length, but it's getting pretty damn close. That's it. I say next to a UK PK. We'll put it next to a Spyderco Squeak, albeit some of these wearing pretty ridiculous aftermarket scales. So hopefully you guys will see it's quite a lot bigger than a Squeak. What else will we do? We'll put it next to a Serge Pachenko Bean Gen 2. So there you go. As you can see, it's on the longer side of UK legal quote-unquote traditional knives, but it does have that traditional look, which does make it somewhat less threatening to quite a lot of people, and should make it a little more socially acceptable. And not only that, but being a traditional style knife, it's nice and slim in the pocket. So while this doesn't have a pocket clip, it still carries rather nicely. So let's talk about the actual specs of the knife. Well, this is in every sense a modern traditional hybrid. This is an M390 blade. M390, as many of you will know, is one of the very finest super steels on the market. It's got a very high carbide content, but it's still relatively easy to deal with, and it's nice and stainless. A good all-round steel. If you want a steel that's going to do a long-term job for you, M390 is a good all-rounder every day of the week. This is wearing my own mirror-polished edge, which I'll come to in a bit. And yeah, it's a nice spear point blade. It has a long pull here, which is sitting quite close to the upper swedge here. Nice, cleanly done. Let me see if I can get that in the light. There we go. Cleanly done Lionsteel Italy CK edition for collector knives there, and the M390 on the blade. Nothing there on the offside, and then what we've got is some titanium bolsters, and this is where we start to really depart, apart from the actual steel itself, from the idea of a traditional knife, because we've got a bolstered look here, which is very traditional, but we've got titanium here, which has been nicely sandblasted, and then we've got 2 Torx head screws retaining that, and then on top of that we've then got a traditional material, and this was available in a few different materials. There was Santos wood, carbon fibre, and a few others, abalone. Yeah, that's all I can remember. Oh, there was a stag one as well, which is probably even more traditional than the ram's horn that we have here. As you can see, this varies from both sides, very natural material. That's also secured by 2 screws, again, titanium Torx head screws. You've got titanium liners, and then a stainless steel back spring. And as you can probably or hopefully see, everything here has been crowned or rounded. So you have crowning on the back spring, crowning on the spine of the blade. Whoops, let me get it in camera. There we go. Crowning on the spine of the blade, crowning on the liners. So when you look at something like the butt end of the knife here and the termination of the back spring, that's nicely rounded. And this has a couple of features really. One, it alleviates any concerns that the company have in terms of manufacturing this knife, trying to get everything to be lovely and flush in the classic traditional way. And yeah, it does give it a different look, and it's a more modern look, and I have to say I do rather like it. I'm a bit of a sucker for a crowned spine on a blade. So yeah, so what's the action like? Well, it's quite a light pull, and the walk and talk's rather nice. I'd say this is a 3 or a 4 at absolute max. It's quite nice and light. It pinches open. You don't have to use the long pull there. It pinches open perfectly comfortably. So if you're someone who doesn't particularly like using nail nicks or long pulls, it works very well from that point of view. It's got a lovely half stop, I have to say. The knife bounces into the half stop, which is just a little thing that I'm a bit of a sucker for, and the blade gets sucked in really, really nicely. So walk and talk on it, albeit relatively light, is very, very good. The kick on this is quite interesting. Unlike a true traditional knife, like something like this little 25 here, you can see that is what's referred to as the kick, and that contacts with the liner on the inside and is effectively what stops the blade from crashing into the back spring itself. Contacts the back spring, I should say, not the liner. What they've done with this isn't a true kick. So what you have here is there's actually a stop pin inside the well, which I think you can just about see there, and that actually interacts inside this groove, which is effectively your sharpening notch. It's an interesting thing. I'm not entirely certain that that was, you know, hugely worthwhile doing. I'm not sure. It does pose problems if you want to extend this sharpening choil a little bit. You have to be very, very careful, and I think it was Apostle P that really pointed this out, not to groove into there, because you could definitely cause a situation where you wear that away so that the interaction point's different or later on the stop pin in there, and you end up with your edge clashing with the back spring itself. Not the end of the world, but worth noting. In terms of the overall fit and finish of the piece, it's very, very, very good. There's virtually no side-to-side play there. If I was being massively nitpicking, maybe I could say a little bit, but I might be imagining it. It's nice and sturdy. And in case you're wondering, this isn't truly take-downable. These sections here are screwed directly into the liner, and that's one of my real nitpicks here, which is you might be able to see there, this screw here is a little proud into, it's not in the blade path as it works, it's not actually contacting the blade, but it's a little bit proud on the inside there, and I don't like that very much. But for the price that these cost originally, I'm really struggling to find a problem, but we'll come back to that. Yeah, fit and finish is very, very good. They haven't attempted to match the bolster in with the scales, and that's really no problem from my point of view. These are natural handle scales, and they've been left to feel very much as such. There's a lot of variance in them. As you can see, the thickness is different. They're kind of that, you know, sort of unfinished, antique kind of look, and I quite like that. I quite like the juxtaposition. What is nice is, I mean, obviously you can remove all this and the knife is still pinned underneath, so all of these cosmetics that are screwed on, you can remove these. You could have aftermarket scales done, you could have a whole scale done. Indeed, I really like the idea of having a whole wooden scale done for these, you know, and just getting rid of the bolstered look completely. I think actually that, to my eye at least, would probably be a bit more attractive. Yeah, I like that idea. And yeah, overall it's just an excellent knife. Downsides, there aren't many, to be honest. It's a little thicker behind the edge than a traditional slicing blade would be. This, I believe, I put a 20 degrees per side bevel on this, and as you can see, the bevel's not overly large and it's nice and even, but certainly if you're putting a 20 degree per side bevel on something like the Lincoln Jack that I mentioned earlier, the bevel would be substantially smaller because it's that much thinner behind the edge. But it's not the end of the world. It's no big problem. And again, I mean, this is still a lovely slicer. At the end of the day, it's still a relatively thin blade. By modern standards, it will still cut really quite well. Yeah, the spear point's lovely. There is a clip point version of this coming in the next run alongside more of these spear point versions. I've not heard yet whether or not there's going to be any different cover materials. I hope so, because I think micarta would look really nice on this. A few sort of fun micartas might look good. The drunken coffee bag one that's sort of weird and pinky might be quite fun on this knife. But I digress. But yeah, I mean, that gives you an overview of the knife. Sharpening up was no problem at all with the diamond stones and all the rest of it that I use. M390 will be a bit of a bear for you if you don't have the correct setup, but you know, send it off to your favourite sharpener or whatever else. The plunge grind is a hair too close to the sharpening notch there. I just extended the actual blade plunge a bit further along, or rather the edge plunge a little bit further along when I did this one, just to keep the bevel, you know, pretty much even, and that certainly will need taking a bit further the next time that this requires a sharpen, but thankfully it's M390, so that won't be that soon. But yeah, it's really nice, and for the price that these originally came in, I think they were around the 100 mark. I say I haven't checked before doing this, and this one, yeah, I can't remember, but very good value. I mean, M390 steel, titanium, quite a lot of construction details. The first ones of these even came with a beautiful sort of Tuscan leather slip. Yeah, I mean, props to the guys who put this together, Mike Latham and Lionsteel, because they did a really nice job. And yeah, very nice knife. And now you just have to decide if you want a super steel on your relatively traditional knife. There's a discussion for another day, eh, guys? All right then, catch you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this. Take care. Bye-bye.